I made this movie for you, my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, biological, adopted, stepchildren, everyone. This is from me to you. In this movie, you will discover why you're alive, why you exist according to the Bible. Why isn't there nothing? Seriously, think about it. Why isn't there nothing? When I was a little boy, waking up in the morning, I opened my eyes and I was seized with wonder. I'm alive. I'm here. But where did I come from? I don't remember arriving. I looked down and strained to see my nose. I studied my fingers. Why are they shaped this way? Look how they work. Why am I in this peculiar body? I was overwhelmed with awe, and I marveled at everything around me. Dust floating on a beam of light, the beautiful subtleties of color that transitioned from one hue to another across textures of light and shadow. I didn't have then, and I don't have now, the words to express the marvel, the wonder, the awe I felt. Years later, I learned that I had been experiencing and contemplating the first and most profound philosophical problem of all. Not the question of meaning or beauty or morality, not the question of how the universe works. People rush right past the first question to quantum physics and mechanisms and equations and processes and the age of the earth. All these questions come later. People skip right past the real problem. I was contemplating the first and most profound philosophical problem of all, the problem of existence. How is it possible that you and I exist? How is it possible that time, space, energy, matter exist? Why is there something rather than nothing? I was taught in high school science class that the universe is eternal. There is no need to consider the notion of a supreme being as a first cause because the universe had no first cause. It had no beginning. This was taught as settled science, not to be challenged. Naturalism was the sponsored belief system in the public school. Naturalism is the philosophical worldview that everything arises from natural properties and causes, and explanations outside of nature are excluded. The naturalist believes in the presupposition that nature is all that exists. Only possibilities within that box are allowed. This is the view held by atheists. Theism is the worldview that there is an ultimate metaphysical something we call God. Biblical theism is the view that time, space, energy, matter are not all that exist, that there is an eternal, self-existent supreme being, and there is life and reality and realms and meaning outside the box. Apparently, my science teacher didn't know that in 1931, Albert Einstein looked through the telescope into outer space, saw the redshift, which indicated that the universe is expanding, and spoke one of his most famous statements: "I now see the necessity of a beginning." But the scientific community of that day was firmly committed to the dogma of an eternal universe. Then our knowledge advanced. In 1965, astronomers Robert Wilson and Arnold Penzias of Bell Labs in New Jersey discovered what is commonly referred to as the echo of the Big Bang, which demonstrated with empirical evidence that the universe had a beginning. Wilson and Penzias were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for their joint detection of the cosmic microwave background radiation, the ancient light left over from the cosmic creation event. We see it everywhere. We observe it continuously by satellite. A percentage of the static snow on an analog TV is the microwave background radiation. The NASA WMAP science team created a diagram of the universe based on the cosmic microwave background radiation. The bell-like shape is a timeline of the universe, from the beginning on the left until now on the right. The right side is still expanding. Albert Einstein's experiments proved that time and space are inseparable. We call it the time-space continuum. Einstein's famous equation taught us that energy and matter are equivalent. So the universe is one, unified, inseparable, interdependent system. When you rewind the clock, reversing the expansion of the universe, you reach a point where space has zero volume. This means at the beginning there was a complete absence of time, space, energy, matter. There was nothing. So when the universe began, time, space, energy, matter all came into existence simultaneously from nothing, in one cosmic creation event commonly referred to as the Big Bang.
Robert Jastrow was the head of the Goddard Space Center at NASA. He was one of the country's leading astronomers and an agnostic. I knew him very well. For some reason, we got quite friendly. And he was as good a human being as he was a scientist. He died far too young. He said, "I'm seeing something among my fellow astronomers that is completely non-scientific. The Big Bang is now generally recognized as the scientific explanation that there was a beginning to the universe. And I can't believe how many of my scientist friends, colleagues, are upset." He said, evidence should never upset a scientist. Correct? Then he's not a scientist, is he? And why were they upset? Because beginning raises an unanswerable question to the atheist. How did it start? Until the Big Bang, science and atheists would say, well, you say God is eternal, we say matter is eternal. But hey, it isn't. It started. And this really bugged his fellow astronomers. And he said, I came to realize maybe they are rooting for evidence and not listening to evidence.
So what is responsible for the origin of the universe? Edward Tryon, a professor of physics in New York, proposed the idea that a quantum fluctuation originated the universe from nothing. This is a theory portrayed in popular culture as settled science, not to be challenged. A quantum fluctuation is a burst of energy that occurs in empty space, that is, a vacuum. It doesn't occur in nothing, it occurs in a vacuum. A vacuum is space, and space is something. Quantum fluctuations are bursts of energy. Energy is something. Quantum fluctuations occur within time and space, and so they are part of the universe and within the universe. Therefore, to say a quantum fluctuation is responsible for the origin of the universe is to say a quantum fluctuation initiated the universe before quantum fluctuations existed. This means the universe would have to be before it was. This is a self-refuting contradiction, which renders the quantum fluctuation theory false. Whatever initiated the universe must by necessity be outside the universe. That is to say, the first cause must transcend time, space, energy, matter, and the laws of nature that describe the regularities of our universe. So any theory that appeals to the physics of our universe to explain the origin of our universe is based on a fallacy. The University of Oxford in England is the oldest university in the English-speaking world and one of the most prestigious academic institutions. Many of the world's most famous scientists have studied at Oxford. John Lennox, professor of mathematics at Oxford University, speaks around the world, He has 3 doctorate degrees and is a fellow in mathematics and philosophy of science.
I want to go straight to the heart of the book, The Grand Design, with this central claim: because there is a law of gravity, the universe can and will create itself out of nothing. Now, perhaps the first question to ask is, what does Hawking mean when he uses the word nothing? The universe can and will create itself out of nothing. Because notice the assumption in the first part of that statement: because there is a law of gravity. That is an assertion of existence. Because there is something, the universe will create itself out of nothing. But the main issue surely is this: gravity, or a law of gravity, is not nothing, if Hawking is using that word in its usual philosophically correct sense of non-being. If he's not, he should have told us. So the heart of this book appears to be an assertion that the universe is simultaneously created from nothing and from something, which I do not regard as a very promising start. Now, I know it's late in the morning for logic, ladies and gentlemen, but I just pointed out to you what I think is the first level of self-contradiction in Hawking's statement. But I believe there to be 3. Let's analyze it a bit further. The universe can and will create itself. Now, if I say X creates Y, I'm presupposing the existence of X in order to bring Y into existence. That is what the word means. So if I say X creates X, I am presupposing the existence of X to account for the existence of X. Well, this is obviously self-contradictory, and it's logically incoherent, even if we put X equal to the universe. To presuppose the existence of the universe to account for the existence of the universe sounds like something out of Alice in Wonderland, not science. But then the notion that the law of gravity, that a law of nature explains the existence of the universe, is also self-contradictory. Since a law of nature, by definition, surely depends for its own existence on the prior existence of the nature it purports to describe, and I shall come back to that later. So I would submit to you, however provocatively it may seem to you, that the main conclusion of the grand design turns out to be a triple self-contradiction. What this goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, is that nonsense remains nonsense even when it's talked by world-famous scientists. But what it serves to obscure, what serves to obscure the illogicality is the fact that the statements are made by scientists. Because it seems to me in the whole contemporary debate, one of the dangers, a real danger, is that we confuse a statement by a scientist with a statement of science. Not all statements by scientists are statements of science, and therefore they do not enjoy whatever authority you ascribe to science itself.
Naturalism is conducted according to the belief system known as philosophical materialism. A materialist believes the only knowledge we can have of reality comes from the hard sciences of physical existence. This is obviously self-refuting because the statement that the only knowledge we can have of reality comes from the hard sciences cannot itself be tested by the hard sciences. Therefore, it fails to live up to its own criterion of acceptability. The naturalist is trapped in the box of the physical, without a scientific or logical basis for an answer to the question, what initiated the universe? As the New York Times put it, the Big Bang provides no insight into what might have powered the bang itself. There is a meme circulating in the scientific community that goes like this: give us one free miracle, and we will explain the rest. In an attempt to rescue the notion of an eternal universe, a multiverse was proposed. A multiverse is the idea that there are many universes in the cosmos, perhaps even an infinite number of every possibility, each with their own laws of nature, including possible parallel universes. This led to the speculation that another universe gave birth to our universe. Imaginations ran wild with no basis in science, giving rise to creative entertainment using computer graphics to present a multiverse as real. But there is absolutely no scientific evidence of a multiverse. There is no observational science behind it. For this reason, it is more appropriately categorized as religion.
Today I want to explain why the multiverse is religion. This is not a polemical argument and it is not meant as an insult, but believing in the multiverse is logically equivalent to believing in God, and therefore it is religion, not science. The major misunderstanding is that I'm saying the multiverse does not exist. But this is not what I'm saying. I'm saying science does not tell us anything about universes we cannot observe, therefore claiming that they exist is not science. To sum it up for today, the multiverse is certainly an interesting idea and it attracts a lot of public attention. There's nothing wrong with that. Entertainment has a value and so has thought-stimulating discussion. But do not confuse the multiverse with science, because it is not.
The question is not how many universes are there, and the question is not how long has the cosmos existed, even if you extend it to eternity. The question is, why is there something rather than nothing? Robert Kuhn, a public intellectual and author, interviewed leading scientists and thinkers who were naturalists and asked them, why is there something rather than nothing? Their answers were interesting. Right now, no one has a convincing answer why we should be here. It's not a question science will answer. The question is either meaningless or it can't be answered. Nothing plus nothing equals everything. It is a very interesting question. There is no before. That's what makes it such a difficult question. It could not have been otherwise. I think it is a perfect, intelligible question. We don't know. I don't have much to say about that. I want to know how come. I'm trying to elevate the debate to a higher level. It's not how things are in the world that are mystical. It's that the world exists. It is extremely puzzling. Charles Darwin said it is impossible to solve. As Hubert Dreyfus, a professor of philosophy at the University of California, Berkeley, put it, the reason we can't answer the question, why is there something rather than nothing, is because we are in it and can't get out of it. You can never be in the position of looking in. That is the philosophical mistake. Philosophers have always thought that they could be, as Plato put it, the friends of God standing on the outside looking in. So naturalists have no answers, yet remain committed to their worldview by faith with religious devotion. But naturalism is not the only worldview. There is another worldview, the view responsible for the development of science itself, the view responsible for the scientific revolution, the scientific method, and scientific disciplines, theism. Theism is consistent with all scientific observation and evidence, and theism provides answers.
The idea that science and God are opposed is historically false. You see, modern science arose with pioneer people like, Galileo, Kepler, Newton. They were all believers in God. And historians and philosophers of science have long studied that and said, is there a connection? There is a connection, a very powerful connection. Modern science arose because people were driven to study the natural world because they believed there was an intelligent creator behind it. To quote Lewis again, men became scientific because they expected law in nature, and they expected law in nature because they believed in a lawgiver. And so, far from science and God being opposed, belief in God was the motor that drove science. If you look at the Nobel Prize winners between 1900 and 2000, you might be surprised to know that over 60% of them were believers. And perhaps the tally is highest for physicists. And one thing I want to clear up right at the start this evening is this. The idea that science and religion are mutually opposed is a myth. It's a complete myth. And that ought to be obvious to every one of you. And what I want to suggest to you is if you want to navigate around the debate that's going on in the academy today, is to get out of your head that it's science versus God. It's not. It's a conflict between two worldviews.
As Robert Jastrow stated, for the scientist who has lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountain of ignorance. He is about to conquer the highest peak. As he pulls himself over the final rock, he is greeted by a band of theologians who have been sitting there for centuries. As Arno Penzias stated, the best data we have concerning the Big Bang are exactly what I would have predicted had I nothing to go on but the 5 books of Moses, the Psalms, and the Bible as a whole. Both naturalists and theists acknowledge that our universe is fine-tuned. It is delicately balanced for our existence. And after discovering the complex DNA informational code of the human genome, both naturalists and theists acknowledge that there is an obvious appearance of intelligent design in the universe. Naturalists believe this is an illusion. Theists think it is because there is a supreme intelligence, not merely extraterrestrial, which is beyond Earth, but an intelligence that transcends physical existence as we know it.
But age 16 is also when I'd spent a long study on cosmology, the origin and structure of the universe, and recognized that the Big Bang explanation really was fitting the observations. And so with this Big Bang, that means there's a beginning. If there's a beginning, there's got to be a beginner. So at age 16, I realized there had to be some kind of God behind the universe. So what did I do? I began to read the great philosophers. Started off with Immanuel Kant, René Descartes, but quickly discovered that their ideas about the universe were not comporting with our observations. So I began to look in other sources for insight about this God that was behind the heavens. So I remember looking at the Hindu Vedas, but they were speaking about multiple beginnings for the universe rather than just one. And the idea of the entropy in the universe wasn't fitting what they were saying, and in the wrong time scale in the universe. The high school I went to was mostly Asians, refugees from Asia, a lot of Buddhists, so I checked out the Buddhist commentaries, basically saying the same thing as Hindus about the universe. Checked out Islam, found that the accounts they had of creation were contradicting one another. Finally, I did check out the Bible. Now, what I told you earlier, I didn't get to know Christians till I was 27. I actually got to see 2 from 30 feet away when I was 11 years of age. They were Gideons that came into our public school. And this is the Gideon Bible I got when I was 11. But I didn't touch it until I was 17. And when I began to go through it, I discovered this book in many places was predicting future scientific discoveries. Things like the universe having a space-time beginning, expansion of the universe under constant laws of physics, where one is a pervasive law of decay, which implied that we must live in a universe that gets progressively colder and colder with respect to time. Genesis 1, I realized here's all these events of creation. They're all correctly described. They're all in the correct chronological sequence. Also discovered this book accurately predicted future historical events. And I remember one night at age 19 calculating the probability that these statements about future science and history could have been recorded by people who are not inspired by the one who's in control of history and who created the universe, and recognize that this book had a higher degree of reliability than laws of physics that we trust with our lives literally every minute of the day.
Naturalists insist that God must be proven according to the methods of scientific observation. However, If God is transcendent, that is to say, outside and independent of physical existence, then our human minds, senses, scientific methods, and equations are completely inadequate to search and find him. This is what the Bible proclaims. According to Job, probably the oldest book in the Bible, God's actions are unsearchable, incomprehensible, transcending our senses, transcending time, space, energy, matter. God is other than, distinct, and separate from physical existence. God is beyond numbers, beyond mathematics. This means God is unknowable. That is, unless God would choose to reveal himself in a way we could understand within our time-space continuum of energy and matter. God would have to initiate it. It would have to be on his terms, in the way he chose to be revealed. The Bible records the event when God revealed himself to Moses. God revealed himself as the eternal, self-existent one. He said, "I am who I am," the great I am. Jesus revealed himself to be the I am numerous times. He said, "Before Abraham was, I am." Jesus would eventually be crucified for statements like this, for blasphemy, claiming to be God. His resurrection from the dead, witnessed by many people, stands as confirmation. The Bible says Jesus is the image of the invisible God. By him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. All things were created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. He is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature, and he upholds the universe by the word of his power. By him all things are and continue to be. And it is God's desire that you have an intimate relationship with him, that you know him. Why is there something rather than nothing? I think the evidence is convincing. The reason there is something rather than nothing is because there is an eternal, supreme Creator, a personal God. He is Jesus Christ the Lord. There is an important statement in the Bible that explains why we exist. It has the potential to speak comfort and healing to your soul if you can comprehend it. In Revelation 4, the heavenly beings are worshiping God, saying, "Worthy are you, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created." By God's will they existed and were created. This is a statement of staggering significance with profound implications to you and me. Allow me to translate it. Why do we exist? Because God wanted us to be. Why do you exist? Because God himself wanted you. God wanted you.